Welcome to another episode of our Stop and Think Body Fancy podcast. We're excited for another one. If you've been blessed before by one of our episodes, make sure that you drop a like, make sure you subscribe, because you never miss anything if you are subscribed. And another thing too that happens is when you like, and especially if you send a comment, YouTube understands that this is good content. So it sends to more people like you that can be blessed by our conversation here. And today we have someone that's dear to me, someone that's very special. We were just joking outside actually, because I'm part of her close friends on Instagram, which is a big deal.
I put you in there.
Right? And so Laysa, welcome. Thank you for accepting my invite to be a part of this. Laysa is one of our leaders here with Spark, with our youth group, and also with Access. She's very active in the church. She's made a difference in so many people's lives.
I'm glad.
Every now and then, when I'm not here preaching, for example, to the youth, she will be the one replacing me, which is amazing. So young, but full of the Holy Spirit, on fire for Jesus. And we're excited to share and to just interview her and talk about how to keep your faith through high school. How to keep your faith. And even some of the stuff she's going to share here, we're going to talk about today, will help you if you're in college or going into college as well, which is where she's headed now in the summer, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Matt. It's good to be here. Definitely answer some questions about high school and college, share a little bit of my story and how I've gone with Christ these past 4 years of school. And I'm hoping, to keep going.
Yes. So, Laysa, how old are you now?
So now I'm 18, officially. Back in July, turned 18 not too long ago. Yep.
Nice.
So,
what grade?
So I just graduated. So back in June, graduated from Framingham High. Now I'm heading off to college in 2 weeks, actually. So I'm excited about it, a little bit anxious, but it's coming up soon.
And Laysa, we just have to share. What school are you going to?
So a lot of people have been coming up to me and congratulating me on it. But I'm going to Brown. It's a super nice school. It's funny, when I applied, Thank you.
Come on.
Yeah.
Put some clapping hands in the comments down below.
When I applied, I didn't think I had any chance of getting in. And then I opened it. I made a video reaction of myself actually like opening the letter. And it's funny. My friends all made pictures of me. Like my face just dropped. It was a huge surprise. But I'm excited about it for sure.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And, like you mentioned, you didn't expect that, right? And a lot of times, life with the Lord is like that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You just open some doors and you didn't expect. And then in prayer, you dive in and you know that He's got your back. He's got plans. In college, that was one of the verses that helped me the most. Jeremiah 29:11, right? The classic, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. But Laysa, what was your high school life like? For example, did you play any sports? Did you do any extracurricular activities?
A few. So throughout my 4 years, I've played a couple varsity sports. I played soccer. I played basketball. I started a club. I was working for half my high school career. So I was super involved with a lot of extracurriculars, not just church. But I think the reason that I was able to still come to church and help with small groups, start leading a small group is because it was a priority for me, right? A lot of people, they'll ask like, how do you keep your faith, right? It's the topic for today. Right. Because it was a priority for me, right? Maybe sometimes I woke up, 6 a.m. after getting at home at 11 from a soccer game because it was away. But, I was going to small groups. The days I didn't get to do my devotional, I was, listening to worship on the way to a game or something, getting Jesus infused into my daily life. So that I'm not, losing pieces of my relationship while I'm going through my daily activities.
You mentioned you started a club.
Yeah.
I need to ask, what club did you start?
So it was the entrepreneurship club. Yeah, I'm big into business. So that's what we started through COVID, actually. So it was a lot of work, but it was good. It helped out my school. Definitely looked good for college and things like that. But,
nice. Is that what you're still doing to this day? Because I saw you're linked to the city hall and.
Yep. Okay. So now I'm working with this nonprofit. We teach about entrepreneurship to kids, all throughout. It's a global company, but my region specifically here in New England, we go to schools. We'll go out. I recently went out to Springfield to do some workshops there. So that's what I'm working with now is entrepreneurship. That kind of stuff. Nice. And then you mentioned that you had so much going on throughout high school, and yet we can clearly see, I can say as your pastor, right? I can clearly see you still grew so much spiritually, right? So what was it like to make it a priority? What does that look like on a soccer season, for example? Right. How did you make Christ a priority? Yeah, so a lot of times in school, right, I'd have pretty hard classes too. My academic schedule was pretty rigorous. But sometimes in my studies, for example, which are my free periods, I would do homework listening to worship music, right? Or when I'm after school, I'm getting ready for a game. On the bus there, I'm pulling out my phone, right, the Bible app. What's the verse of the day? At least got to get that in before the game, right? Sometimes I didn't have time for a 30-minute, 1-hour devotional.
Right.
But, there were pieces of the Bible that I was consuming throughout the week and the day that helped me stay focused with that.
Nice. And that's so important because a lot of times we think that we need to have that 30-minute, 40-minute, 1 hour time, And I'm not saying that that's not valid. I still have that. I think it's super important. But sometimes as you're going through school, some days are more rushed than others.
Right. Yeah.
Some days it's just, like you mentioned, you get up at 6 a.m. and you're back at home at 11:30, right? Because of all the stuff that you went through besides school, after school, right? But those rides, you're riding to a game, right? Or right before, just making sure you're staying in the Word it's so key. Yeah. What was it like playing sports and being a Christian? Was it hard?
Yeah, sometimes it was interesting because at first I think the teams, there's always competition, right? When you try out as a freshman, the seniors are trying to help you out, but they're also like, it's my spot. I'm a senior. I was here first, that kind of stuff. So sometimes, with a huge team, you get a little bit of drama going on, things like that. So sometimes it was tough, to be a Christian and know like this one person made, a horrible play. Okay. And everyone's blaming them and saying that, it was their fault. And things like that is when you kind of come in and be a friend for someone, right? There are little instances that I think, although I'm not speaking the gospel out clearly, right there in front of everyone, there are little pieces that people would notice, right? Like swearing. I made sure that it's not something that I did. It's not something that was involved in my language. Yeah. And after a while, people started to ask about that, right? Like, why do you swear? And why don't you swear, actually? Yeah. And, where does your motivation come from? How do you do all these things and you're still okay? So I think living the life of a Christian indirectly already preaches the gospel to those that are around you.
So much. Something happened to me this week playing soccer. So we had two strikers. I was the one on the left and there was another guy on the right. And we had a clear goal. It was just him and the goalie. Yeah. And he missed it. Like he just stumbled, lost balance and just missed a clear chance. And everyone was just like, oh, even people from the other team were like, oh boy,
Right.
And I was just like, dude, it's all good. We'll get the next one. Right. And he looked at me like as I was, what? What do you mean? We'll get the next one, right? And then the defender from his team or from the opposite team said to me, wow, what a comment. Like, it's just these little things. And then here's what I noticed after. He has me on Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. Not a believer, not a Christian. He liked one of my videos talking about Jesus. Wow. So I was like, I right there, I thought right away, is it because I said that?
Right, that he saw something in you that was different. And then he went, well, I want to see what this guy's about, right? Why? Being that difference, I think a lot of times is the seed being planted. It's that gate for you to get a conversation started with someone.
Because sometimes it's not just about preaching. It's not just about, hey, here's a Bible verse. I didn't ask for a Bible verse.
Right, right. You're in the middle of a soccer game, right? You're not going to pull out your Bible app.
Right. Sometimes it's just like being a Bible verse to someone. I think it's Bill Graham that has a saying, you might be the only Bible people will read.
Ever read.
Right?
Yeah.
So we need to make that difference. What do you think was one of the hardest thing for you to go through in high school? Was it the drama? Was it the temptations? Friend groups? What was hard?
Yeah, so I think that because I had really good friends, I was super grounded. Here, I came to New Life actually right before I started high school, so I got into a small group, and that was key for me because a lot of my friendships were Christian. They were Christ-based. So when even in daily conversation, I'm feeling down or I have a question about something, my friends were there to help me, were there to have fun with me, but in a way that pointed back to Christ, right? So having a mentor was super, super key for me. I remember I actually went, Matt, you probably remember this. There was a really tough time I went through in my faith. It was a little bit before COVID, and I was struggling a lot because thinking about eternity, right? And remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, I would come to church just to have you and pray for me. And Jonathan, I don't know, maybe watching this, shout out to him, right? He helped pray for me too. Yeah. And so the problem was that I believed so much in the second coming of Christ. Yeah. And I was afraid, right, of eternity. What is eternity like? What does it mean to spend forever, right? Because our minds can't grasp that idea. And when I had that problem, I remember I would call a lot Jade, right? She was there for me. Almost every day I would send her a text and be like, I don't know, like I have these questions, I'm feeling like this. And so having people around you that you can call and they'll pick it up and support you in a way that, again, leads back to Christ was key for me. That was probably one of my toughest moments.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things that we've gotten from Pastor, from me, is just questions need to be answered.
Yep.
And more than that, they need to be asked.
Yeah.
We have questions about our faith. We need to be honest. The Bible doesn't have all answers.
Yeah.
There are things that are simply not there. So what do we do with things that are not there? Well, there's some basics, right? There's some foundation. Everything that we ought to know is there. Yeah. That's what we got to believe, If God left us this book, the book is complete. We can't add anything to it. We can't subtract anything from it. But everything else everything that we need is based on that. So that's really cool that you're able to, to find mentors. And that's so important for all seasons of life. You're going to college now.
Yeah.
Right. And that's so exciting.
Yeah.
You're moving away from home first time.
Yeah, I am. I'm thinking about, something that I regret in high school is that I don't think I preached or was, I didn't evangelize as much as I wish I had.
Okay.
Right. So thinking about where you are right now with school or, with a sports team, whatever it is, your ultimate mission as a Christian is to bring the gospel, right, to people, whether that's through your actions or through your words, right? Faith comes from hearing the word of God, right? So something I'm going into college with is definitely thinking about, what's one friend, who's one person I can bring back home with me and I can, have a devotional life with, or someone that I can disciple the same way that I was discipled, right?
Yeah.
We think about, we have questions that are answered by people that are a little bit closer to God than we are, but then we also need to turn around, I think, and have someone that we're also pouring into, right?
Yeah, that quick, like in soccer, in basketball too, like you look both sides.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Like you look at who's behind you, who's guarding you, who's marking you, right? Who's got their eyes on you, but you also look ahead, who am I going to pass to?
Yep.
Like you got to think, what's your next move, right? And I have this thesis, I guess, with me, right? That I believe no one's going to show up to heaven alone.
Yes.
No one, right?
Yep.
We have to have in our resume. Like,
someone, right, that we influence.
Exactly, at least one person. And Jesus was so clear. He left us with one mission: go and make disciples.
Exactly.
Right? No matter what age, this is something you've done. Right now, we're actually thinking like, oh, what are we going to do?
Right, with the small group.
With the small group, yeah. So if you don't know, Eliza leads a small group here. That actually multiplied and it's growing again.
Yep.
Right.
We have to multiply again, which is amazing news, right?
Yeah. But we're constantly going through what Jesus said. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Right. So we're doing what he told us to do. Ask the Lord to harvest, to send more workers, and we prepare them. Right. And you did a good job with that too, preparing a co-leader.
Thank you. I was trained well, so I spent some time with Nat, right? And we joke around because most leaders don't really get time to train. You kind of get thrown in there, right? Yeah. But it was great. And I think that moment of learning from other people, right? Mm-hmm. I think especially going throughout high school, it's a moment where you're taking in a lot of information, right? You're meeting new people. As you said, like it's good to have questions, but be careful who you ask those questions to is what I would say to someone going in, right? Who are you letting pour into your life is definitely one of the key things to think about. Yeah,
because you got to think, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, right? And the life. So if we're looking for questions that have to do with life, who's got the answer? Jesus. So you want to make sure you're asking someone who's close to him. If you're looking for truth, who claimed to be truth but one person? Jesus. Right? So you got to look for someone who is close to Jesus, who's going to be his voice in your life, right? And one thing that I think you did so well is just, like you mentioned, as a leader, just jumping in. Yeah. Jumping in. Is it scary? A little bit, all right? At times, I thought, we joke around. So Nat and I, when I first joined small group, right, so I was leading middle school kids. And when I first got there, I sat down and I was like, what am I doing here? So I would look around at the kids and, kids, they can be fun and I love them now. I really do. But in the beginning, it was a little bit different, right? Yeah. But that's kind of part of it. It's where God sends you, got to be ready to do what is needed, right? Like you were just saying. Yeah. We're actually giving out some stickers tonight. Yeah. For the winners, for the Bible count, right? And one of the first ones that popped up, it was like hundreds of them, right? Yeah. The first one that popped up was a verse in 1 Corinthians, which says, let all that you do be done in love. Yes. Right? That famous passage where Paul is just warning the church, reminding the church, and it's a reminder for us, like everything we do needs to be done in love, right? We're going to school. I'm going from my last semester, my last school year now in grad school as well. And I'm just thinking, who needs some encouraging?
Right.
Who needs some encouragement? Who needs a word from the Lord? Who's around me that needs a little bit of Jesus, right? And as you're going through classes, you're going to college now, right? Yes. And actually, I just gave my friend a book that I got from Word of Life called A Different College Experience. And the premise of the book is there is a way, because the stats are there. Right. The stats will say that 8 or 9 in 10 will lose their faith in college. That's scary. Yeah. That's a really low number. But it's nothing new. I was just looking at the Gospels and hearing the pastor talk about it too, how when Jesus preached to like hundreds, oftentimes there would only be like 50, 40, sometimes even just the 12.
That stuck with him.
Yeah. That actually stayed with him.
And something I think that is important as well is that you think about, okay, I'm coming to church, right? And as I'm in high school or in middle school, but eventually your parents are probably the ones making you go, they're not going to be there, right? And you think about, why are people leaving the church? Well, it's because most of them probably were never there to begin with, right? So you have to think about, where are you rooted in, right? Are you coming because it's an obligation or a desire that you have? Yeah. Right? Because God, I think he calls us to serve and to be selfless, but he also calls us to enjoy our life with him, right? Yes. Is a huge, huge part of it, and something that I think I'm trying to work on as well, as enjoying it, right? It's not a burden. He says that his burden, it's light, right? Light. His yoke, it's not heavy. Yeah. So living in that, the peace that comes with serving God, I think is what breeds that desire in us as well, to be rooted in him. Nice. And throughout the Psalms, like I meditate a lot on the Psalms. Yeah. And over and over again, the psalmists would say, David a lot of times, Asaph, and a lot of the psalmists would just say, Lord, you're my portion. Yes. You're my delight. Like your word is as sweet to my mouth as honey. And you're just like, man, how do these people find such delight in God and his presence, right? That's available to us. Every single person, in whatever age you're in, you're going to college now, and there's going to be nights where people are going to look for their delight, their portion, their fun, their significance in other things. What are you going to find your delight in? Yeah. Right? It's not a simple, like, no, I'm just going to stay in my dorm and miss out or Exactly. No, I have a greater good. Yep. Like, you have access to God. I think it's Martin Luther that has a quote. It's something like this. Like, either Luther or Spurgeon, one or two. You have access to God when you close the door and you open your Bible. Like, that's insane. Like, we have access to the creator of fun, to the creator of delight, to the creator of true joy. And a lot of times we look for joy in things that he created rather than in him that created it all. Yeah, it was interesting. So I was just talking to my friends about the fruits of the Spirit, right? And there was just a message preached on it. And one of the things that I think comes with the Spirit is joy, right? Peace and love. And when you are full of the Holy Spirit, you're generous and all these amazing things, but it's also joy, right? So when it's tough, it's not tied to circumstance. You have joy because he's eternal, right? He's outside of time. So I think keeping that perspective of things that are temporary, right? Things will pass, but my God is eternal, right? This pleasure, it seems, right? Like it's the amazing thing going on. It's the hot thing going on, but you got to know that you have a long-term mindset. It's not just about the short-term, what's up right now. And I think you're spot on. I think that's a big difference between pleasures of this world and pleasures that are eternal. They have a lasting period here on earth as well. Things that give you true joy and peace that are holy, right? That are divine. They last longer than the temporary things of the flesh. I think someone posted earlier today, you go out, you drink, you party, and whatever else you may do, and then you come home empty. Yep. Right? With the Lord is the opposite. You would think you're going to go through this. You're going to stay home, right? You're going to read the word, and it seems like more of an empty night, but you'll be full. Yep. Do you see? Like, a person will do all of that stuff and end up empty. You will do so little, it seems, in the eyes of others, and end up so full. Right, yeah, because with God, I think what excites me about, spending time with God is that I come empty, right? And I leave full.
Yes.
Right? You come, you bring what you have, you come empty, and he fills you with everything that you need. I think having the confidence that God is really going to provide for you when it seems like, I'm not the popular kid at the school, or, everyone's out there. We can just call it what it is, right? They're out smoking, out drinking, whatever is going on, right? But you know that God, he's going to provide exactly what you need when you need it. So having that peace and doing your part, but resting that he has it covered.
Liza, I really believe that God has he has favorites. I joke around, right? He likes the lowly. Yeah. He likes the lonely ones. He likes the one that society usually goes, oh, what a loser.
Yes.
What someone that's less than, right? The non-popular, the one who's struggling to find identity, the one who's, who comes from a broken family, the one who has bad examples at home. If you read through scriptures, Jesus went to those people.
Yep.
And to this day, I've been a pastor for almost a decade, right? I see it over and over and over again. My biggest concern is actually for those who have great families,
right,
that are doing well financially, that are somewhat popular, those that are,
a bunch of things to do. Every weekend they're out, they're traveling, doing something.
Yeah. Why? Because a lot of times you're satisfied with this life. And you don't think you need a greater joy. You're pretty good.
Yep.
You go wherever you want to go. You get any shoes you want. You get you have the life you think you want.
Yeah.
So then you don't see that there's a huge missing piece. There's a huge hole in your heart.
Yep.
But those who have a lot of times a broken family, a dark past, that have gone through hurts and troubles and have scars, right? That are not really that popular. Jesus almost let me embrace you, my child, right? Let me heal you, right? And I think a lot of times we're missing that. So I think you're spot on. Just come empty. Know who you are. Just come as you are, right?
Yep.
And the good news is that you will not leave as you are.
Exactly. And it's that transformation that always, I love to see. I've been, like I said, here at New Life for 4 years now. So I've seen some of the kids that when I got here were super young, and now they're in high school. And a lot of them, will say oh, my past is full of this and this. And, I feel like people look at me and they see what I used to do, right? And that's when that transformation is that's key, because you can rely on the fact that he knows everything that you've done, right? God sees even what you did when you were alone, right? He sees the worst in you. Yeah. And yet he loves you the most, right? So if God can use someone who is broken, you can take me, for example, right? I was the most judgmental person I think you can think of, right? I had no patience whatsoever. I think it's, people will tell me that a lot, and, I think I kind of deserve it, but something I hopefully think that God has been transforming in me for a while. So even the little things I think that people can get stuck up on, God can use that. He'll take that, and it's not there with you forever.
Yeah, and that did happen if you think about it. Not even on purpose. I honestly did not do that on purpose. With the group that you had, you were thrown into a middle school small group, people with different pasts, broken families, right? People that maybe a year or two before that, you would look at and be like, no, not dealing with that.
Yes.
I'm not even sure that they're Christians, right? But now, you were just talking to one of them as you came in. There's just so much love, right? Because you learn to see yourself as one of them. I was lost and he found me. I was broken and he fixed me, right? I had no good to offer Christ, and he was good enough to come to me, right? Yep. So now we do the same to others.
Yep.
And one final advice, a word for someone who's just, Matt, what do I do? Liza, what do I do? How can I become more like you, right?
Sure.
How can I
imitate me as
through?
I imitate Christ, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah. How can I imitate you, Liza, as I'm going into my last year of school or my junior year or going to a new school? What do I do? How do I keep my faith?
Sure, yeah. I think a lot of people will look at what I've done, right, and say, oh, Liza, you're going to a nice school, which is great, right? It was difficult. It's a huge accomplishment, and I am, happy about that. Yeah. They'll say, oh, you have a job, you were in clubs, you have good grades. But of all these accomplishments, right, you might say, the biggest thing that I'm proud of really is what I did to serve others, right? Yes. That is my biggest accomplishment, right? It's not things that I did that are going to add to my resume, but things that I did that have added to my life, have added to my relationship with Christ, my relationship with others. So my biggest piece of advice is to follow that one commandment Jesus gave, right? To love God above others and love others as you love yourself, or even more than you love yourself, right? And everything that you're doing, think about what's the motivation behind it, right? And if it points back to God, then you'll go in the right direction.
Nice.
Right? That's my biggest piece of advice for sure.
Nice. Liza, thank you so much.
Thank you
I
for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yep.
Maybe once you're done with some of your classes,
Sure.
or when you're back here in Framingham.
I'll be back throughout the weekends. Hopefully we'll see each other around.
Sweet. And God bless you in your journey. We'll be here.
you.
And
Yes.
if you were blessed by our conversation here today, drop a like. Let us know down in the comments, maybe a question you'd have for us. We would love to
Sure,
answer.
yeah.
And maybe it's something that stood out to you that others, by looking at your comment, can see. So it can be a blessing to others as well. And do us a huge favor. Share this everywhere. We share we share memes. We
Yes.
share, silly things. Share something spiritual and deep and profound as well, because it can change someone's perspective. It can change someone's life. So let Jesus use you in all of your contact, all of your social media platforms. So share this, send this to everyone, and we'll see you at our next episode. Thank you, Eliza, once again.
Thank you. Yep.